In this video we're going to talk about bearings, and we're also going to complete an example on bearings. And what you'll notice is we have a picture of a map, and that's because bearings are really useful for mapping. And we use them for hiking, boats use them on the sea, planes and helicopters use them in the air to talk about the direction they are going in. So when we look at the map, you'll see this blue dotted line here, which shows the direction that the hikers are traveling in. And the bearing they're traveling in is 346 degrees. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at the compass on the right side. You'll notice it starts with north, which is at 0 degrees, goes to east at 90 degrees, then south, then west, and so on. You'll notice that the bearings are measured clockwise from north. So if we go from north and go in a clockwise direction, the angles start getting bigger and bigger. You could also say that north is 360 degrees because north involves a full rotation. So when we look at the bearing of 346 degrees on our map down here, that's very close to 360. So that bearing would be somewhere around this direction here that I've drawn on our compass. You'll also notice that bearings are written using 3 digits. For instance, the 0 is written with 3 zeros. The 90 degrees is written with a 0 at the front to ensure that 3 digits have been written down. So we're going to start on our example now, and it says by referring to the diagram at right, give the bearing. So we've got 3 bearings that we're going to work on, questions A, B, and C. Starting with question A, it wants the bearing from point O to point A. So you can see that's the black arrow that I've highlighted just there. And to find the bearing, you start at north and go clockwise. So starting at north, going clockwise in green, we're trying to find the angle that I've drawn here with the green arrow. What angle is that? Well, we know part of the angle. We know this section is 25 degrees. To finish it off, I've got to find this section from north to east, which is 90 degrees, since the angle from north to east is 90. So we've got 2 parts of our angle, a 90 and a 25 degree angle. So we just add them up. 90 degrees plus 25 degrees comes out at 115 degrees. Alright, now before we work on question B, we really need to rub off our markings so that things don't get cluttered. So if we go from point O to point B, this is the black arrow here that I've highlighted, and we're trying to find the angle from north, once again, to this arrow. And we can see that it's more than 180. The problem is that the clue they've given is this 67 degree angle here, which is on the other side of the arrow. So how do we do that? Well, we know that west is 270 degrees. So if I was, and we'll do this one in, let's say, purple, if I was to go from north all the way to west, that would be 270 degrees. We want less than that, and we need to figure out how far back from the 270 degrees do we need to go. Well, that's where the 67 degrees comes into play. If we go 67 degrees backwards, we land on our arrow. So for this example, we're not adding angles, we're subtracting them. 270 minus the 67, which comes out at 203 degrees for our bearing. Alright, now moving on to question C, which is our advanced question. It looks very similar to question B, but a big difference. The difference being it's from point B to O, the same line, but we're going in a different direction. We're starting at B and going to O. So really, for question C, if I draw my arrow up to the top right here, the arrow is going in a different direction. point B to point O. So what do we do in this situation? Well, the compass, because we're starting at point B, the compass needs to be such that B is at its center. North, east. Really don't need to write all the directions on there. And what you'll notice is it's going to be somewhere between 0 and 90 degrees. So what are we going to do to work that out? Well, I'm going to draw a dotted line that carries on this line here. And we know the angle here is 67 degrees because that's the same as our diagram below. Here's our 67 degrees here, and here's our 67 here. And this means that this angle from east to the arrow is 67 degrees as well, because they are vertically opposite each other. Vertically opposite. Alright, so how do we find this angle? I'll write it in green, because the angle in green will actually give us the bearing that we need. Well, quite simple. All we need to do is we can see the angle from north to east is 90, so we just need to go 90 minus the 67. So 90 degrees minus 67 degrees, which comes out at 23 degrees. Remembering these are bearings, so we need to put a 0 at the beginning. It needs to be 3 digits. And that concludes example 1.